Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard. I'll be your host this week, Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at MattFFDynasty. And with me as always is my co-host Kev, who you can follow on Twitter at Dynasty_GO. How are you doing, Kev?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Matt. I'm just about recovered from a few late nights for the NFL draft. So yeah, just looking forward to diving in and talking about some rookies from the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a long week, hasn't it? Staying up late every night to see where all these players have gone. But yeah, it's all worth it in the end.
I'm an old man. I can't handle these late nights.
You and me both, mate. And obviously as well, we're joined by our fellow co-host Ali, who you can follow on Twitter at FFDynastyGrill. Ali, how you doing?
Yeah, really good, Matt. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you, mate. As I say, still probably recovering from the weekend, but it's all worth it.
It's been a bit like Christmas this weekend, hasn't it, with the drafts? But some of us are happier with the presents we got than others.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that as we crack on with the show. But before we start, Ali, do you just want to remind the listeners and the viewers about us upcoming streamathon? Obviously, it's this month now, so getting close.
It is, yeah. So the streamathon is less than 3 weeks away now, on the Saturday, the 22nd of May. We're doing a 16-hour live stream covering all 32 NFL teams from a Dynasty perspective. And we've got some really awesome guests joining us along the way. So it's all for a great charity in mind, who help people that suffer and are struggling with mental illness. Be sure to check out our pinned tweet on our Twitter page at Fantasy Wildcard and find the Just Given link, and also the list of all the great guests that we'll have joining us. Any donations or support will be greatly appreciated, and we look forward to you joining us on the stream. Thank you very much.
Yeah, can't wait for that one. It's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. But yeah, should we crack on with the show, gents?
Let's do it.
Lovely. So on today's show, we're going to be obviously recapping last week's NFL draft and analysing the dynasty implications that we've got from all the landing spots now. It's what we've been waiting for, finding out where all these guys are going to land. So we're going to probably be avoiding the consensus top rookies. So like Trevor Lawrence, obviously we all knew where he was going to land. Najee Harris, we all expected Pittsburgh, and that's what we got. But yeah, Kev, we'll crack straight on. Who do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, in my eyes, this is the most exciting pick in the draft. It was Travis Etienne. I got my early wish of a running back going to the Jags. Seeing Twitter burn was hilarious. He obviously went at the back of round one, pick 25, and he's in that backfield alongside 2020 running back 7, James Robinson. Now, obviously, the James Robinson truthers were out in full force after this selection. He's saying he's better than Etienne. He's going to be the lead back. It looks good on film. All the usual things you expect, but let it go, people. It's over. The guy was undrafted. He's got no ties to this coach or GM. They've just spent first-round draft capital. In my eyes, I think there's 0% chance Etienne isn't the main man without injury. So I do think it will be a split backfield, but I'm not actually that bothered that it's a split backfield. I think that actually suits Etienne better because he's on that Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift spectrum where he doesn't need 20 touches like James Robinson. He's going to be guaranteed that pass catching role. And there's talk that Robinson will keep the goal line work, but Etienne had 70 rushing touchdowns in college himself, so he's no dummy. Etienne is explosive as TNT, and he's blown up James Robinson's dynasty stock, so unlucky. He was my pre-draft running back 1 was Etienne. He's also my post-draft running back 1. He gets that continuity with college QB Trevor Lawrence, which I think is huge. He's got the biggest ceiling of any rookie running back as well, and I think it's well within his range of outcomes that he gets 50, 60 catches as a rookie. The immediate knee-jerk reaction in the community was to value him lower, that it's a bad landing spot, that the value's gone down. And we've seen him slide in rookie drafts already. So, I've seen him ranked as low as running back 4, which mind is blown at that, honestly. I cannot believe that. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts. Obviously, I like Etienne a bit more than you guys, but where do you anticipate that Etienne will be going in Superflex rookie drafts with this landing spot?
So I certainly didn't hate the landing spot. I mostly found it funny with the Twitter explosion. But he was my pre-draft running back too, and he's my post-draft running back too. I still like him. Make no mistake, I think he's going to be the guy in Jacksonville. Early on, they'll probably ease him in. But yeah, he's going to take over that role. Robinson's still going to have a role, but it's not going to be anywhere near that he had last season. He's probably going to go. And in fact, the two drafts I've done so far, he's gone at the pick 108 in both, which I think is kind of where I expected him to go. I would personally pick him a spot higher, probably. But that's where he's gone. I think Urban Meyer, I think, is going to use him in the right way. And you say that link up with Trevor Lawrence is going to be crucial. So although I found Najee's landing spot in Pittsburgh to be perfect, he's more RB1 and pretty far away. I certainly don't hate it. So yeah, I definitely like the landing spot and probably pick 107, 108 is where I expect him to go.
Yeah, I'm like you, Ali. He's still my RB2. I had him RB2 before the drafting, and he's still there. Like yourself, I've been in 3 rookie drafts because I'm a degenerate like yourself, and I've been smashing through these rookie drafts. He went 108 in 2 of them, and then he went 109 in the other, and that's where I grabbed him at 109. Personally, I'm like you, Ali. I think around that 107 is probably where I think he should go. So in Superflex, you're taking those 4 top quarterbacks for me, Jamar Chase, and then obviously I'm Najee Harris over Etienne, so I'd take him before him as well. But yeah, 107, I think that's about right. And then just moving on to the landing spot, I think, yeah, it's a pretty solid landing spot. I mean, if we're going to talk about rookie running backs falling into an ideal situation, I'm always going to want to be in that situation where the vet that they've got beats out is an undrafted running back. Obviously, the franchise have got no ties to him, new head coach, as Kev mentioned. There's 0 ties to Robinson. So if you're going to pick any kind of situation for one of these rookie running backs to fall into, I think this is right up there, unless you've got obviously a backfield that's empty. So yeah, I'm completely happy with the landing spot. I'm actually shocked that people think that this first round running back's going to struggle for time against an undrafted free agent like Robinson. I agree with what Kev said. There's maybe potential that it's a 1-2 punch, but I'm backing talent to win this one very early. I mean, I think it probably starts as a committee, but I think as soon as we see the talent that Etienne's got, I think he's just going to run away with the job a little bit like we saw last year with DeAndre Swift. Obviously had to compete with AP. As soon as you saw the talent that Swift's got, he just ran away with it, and that's the way I see it. Kev mentioned as well the Trevor Lawrence connection. I think that's absolutely massive. Obviously, they know each other. Lawrence is gonna feel comfortable whenever he's throwing the ball out to Etienne. It's going to be somebody who's going to target. So yeah, I just, for the life of me, I can't see him at very, very worst RB2 season. I think he's going to be a comfortable RB2, and he's got that upside to push into the RB1 range as well. So Kev, I know you're super high on him, but what do you think his ceiling can be in 2021?
Well, make sure you sat down, people. This might be a little bit too much for some of you, but honestly, I think everything fell his way. I could see him as high as running back 5 this season. I think he has got that much potential. I don't think it's likely, but I think if there is an injury to Robinson, for example, and he's getting more than, say, 2/3 of the backfield share, let's say he gets the same share as James Robinson got last season, he's going to smash those numbers that James Robinson put out. I think pass upside, the touchdown opportunity gives him that top 5 ceiling. But I think in reality, he's a running back 2. I think in that 15 to 20 range is a fair assessment as a rookie. But yeah, I think if it all went his way, he has got that high ceiling. Remember, Alvin Kamara was a top 3 running back as a rookie in 2017. Granted, Kamara was in a better situation, but these guys win in similar ways. So yeah, Etienne, boom.
Is this you planting your flag, Kev, as Etienne being the next Kamara? Is this what you're trying to tell us?
If you want to take it that way, Matt, yeah.
I'm always happy to back a guy, so yeah, we'll run with that one. So we'll move on to the next guy then, Ali. Who do you want to talk about?
So Kev's planting the flag for Etienne, and I've got a plant the flag for my guy, Trey Lance. There's got to be the most. The question that everybody's been asking me this week is who's the number 2 quarterback? Who do I pick in Superflex at the 102? And for me, it's now Trey Lance over Fields. There's not a huge amount in it, and anyone picking Fields over Lance, I completely get it. But for me, Trey Lance, this is the best spot he could possibly have landed in. It's got to be the best spot for a rookie quarterback in what the past 5 or 10 years. If you think about what he's got there, he's got the best play caller in Kyle Shanahan. He's got some awesome weapons, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, and Kittle. So yeah, he's really found his perfect home where he doesn't have to start right away either. Jimmy G can, take the reins for the first half of the season, or even a year if it has to be. So yeah, the 49ers obviously gave up a hell of a lot. They gave up the 12th overall pick this year, 3rd rounder this year, and then their first round picks in 22 and 23. So it's a huge amount to pay. So they really are all in on Lance. So I was thrilled when he was the pick. And he's a proper dual threat quarterback as well, with his huge rushing ceiling, averaged over 70 yards a game in college, which is obviously exactly what you want in a fantasy quarterback. His touchdown to interception ratio was 30-1 in college, which was obviously really good as well. So yeah, is there a chance that he busts? Yeah, absolutely, he could do. But for me, I'm putting my trust in Kyle Shanahan, who I think is the best head coach and the best offensive play caller in the league. So he's the 102 for me. He's obviously a riskier pick than Fields, but I think he's got more upside. So yeah, the only scenario where I possibly wouldn't pick him is if I was somehow managed to get the 102 this year, but I was all in. I was one quarterback away. Then I maybe would look for Fields. So yes, I'm Trey Lance all day long here. So a quick question: when do you expect to see Lance take the field for the 49ers, and how much does that factor into your decision about whether you draft him at the 102 or 103?
Yeah, so personally, a little bit how you mentioned, Ali, I think Jimmy G is probably going to be the starter week 1, but he is going to be on a super short leash, I think. It's interesting because I think the team as a whole, it's a really solid team from offense right through to defense. So I think they're still going to manage to win games, even if Jimmy G isn't playing at his best at the start of the year. But as I say, I just think as soon as they start losing 1 or 2 games, I think it's just Lance going to step right in, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it if it's after 4 or 5 games. It's just, it all boils down to, I think, when they start hitting that bit of bad form, I think they just switch through to Lance and see what they've got in the rookie. But I'm like you, Ali, I'm super high on Trey Lance. In regards to it, does it factor into me grabbing him early? It doesn't really, if I'm honest. I just think the upside's too high to risk passing up on, if I'm honest. I'd say it's probably the cheapest you're ever going to get, Lance, if I'm being completely honest. I think, as I say, with that upside that he has, I think if you can grab him at 102, 103, either though, I think that's the cheapest you're ever going to get him, because as soon as he becomes a starter, as soon as we see that talent that we know he's got, that rushing upside, he's got it all. So I think as soon as he hits the field, then if he hits it running, there's no way you're going to get him at a discount. So yeah, I've got to get him. I've got to get him early. I think that you can't go into it thinking, oh, I'll grab him off whoever's got him in the rookie draft. I'll grab him off him when they're worried if he doesn't start or if he makes a slow start. But everybody knows what they're getting when they draft him. If he's not the starter, you expect him not to be the starter. So I can't see any owners getting worried and panicking and wanting to sell him on the cheap. So I think now's the time to get him. And as I say, that 102, 103 mark, it's going to be the cheapest you're ever going to get him.
Yeah, I think in terms of Lance being a starter, I can see it in the first month of the season. I'm thinking Baker Mayfield back in Cleveland in 2018. I think he started midway through game 3. The 49ers have said that they think Lance is the most pro-ready quarterback. He ran a pro-style offense at North Dakota State. It is rather ironic that's been said based on his limited number of starts, but I think if you're looking at Lance compared to Jimmy G talent-wise, there's miles difference between those. I mean, Trey Lance, third pick in the draft. He's not going to be sat on the bench, is he, if he's ready? So as soon as he's ready, he'll be the starter. Taking him in your rookie drafts, I think he goes early. It's usually correlated to a rebuild, and rookie running backs are ideal for rebuilding teams. But I honestly think that any type of team can take him. You alluded to it a little bit, Matt, where I imagine the hype will continue to build right up until him being the starter, and then we'll see another rise again then. So I actually think if you want to be a bit cheeky, a bit risky, you could take him in your rookie drafts, even if you don't need him. And I imagine you'll be able to sell him for more, even before he starts, never mind after he starts as well. So I think there'll be an opportunity to sell for profit, but like you said, he's got a massive ceiling. So you're probably going to stick with him. Like you said, he's cheap. He's cheap in startup drafts as well, I think, compared to some of the other guys going around him. So I've got a question for you, Ali. I know you and Matt both have flipped Lance and Fields after the landing spots. Is this down to the weapons, the offense as a whole, the franchise stability, or is it a combination of these different factors that's made a change?
So it's probably all the above, to be honest. He's got all of that, which is why I think he's landed in the best spot. Usually, you look at Lawrence, there's a lot of holes on the Jaguars, and you look at Wilson landed at the Jets, there's a lot of holes there. Whereas the 49ers are a team that can compete now. So yeah, firstly, it's the draft capital taken at the 103 that they gave up so much for him. And I think he's at the perfect spot where his talents will be maximized. They'll get everything they can out of him and give him all the best tools and chances that they can. The Kyle Shanahan one is massive for me because his job is safe. And I think we've got years of Trey Lance. And I really think that they're going to get the best out of him. I can see him easily being the top 5 or 6 quarterback in a year's time. He's got all the weapons there. So again, I'm happy to, even if he doesn't start half a season, I'm happy to wait. But I'm like you, I think he probably sees the field quite early on.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ali. Sorry, Kev, but you found 2 super high fans on Lance, so we're not going to be moving him down. But we've just spoke about the other guy, so we might as well dig in a little deeper, and that's Justin Fields. In all honesty, I was pretty shocked to see him slide as far as he did in the draft. The Bears obviously traded up to pick 20 to grab him trade up from pick 20 to pick 11 to grab him. He's now obviously only got Andy Dalton to beat out when it comes to the Bears, and I think with the fact that they were willing to give up that future first as well, I just think all signs are pointing towards him being the immediate starter for the Bears. And I just think in terms of fantasy, he's just got that upside again that we love. We know he's got the arm talent, but again, he's somebody that's perfectly capable of running the ball as well. He had over 1,100 rushing yards and 19 rushing touchdowns in college. So again, everything we look for when it comes to a fantasy quarterback. Great news that he's got the pass catches that he has in Chicago with Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney as well. But I think it's also great for them that they've got that upgrade from Andy Dalton to Fields as well. I think that's going to be great in terms of those fantasy, their production as well in fantasy. So just a great situation all around, I think, for both sides, for the quarterback and for the receiving weapons as well. I think he's going to be a rock solid QB2, and that's straight away in 2021. And then, as I say, the upside, he can quite easily crash into that QB1 area and get into that top 12 at the quarterback position. Personally now in my rankings, I've got him around that QB10, QB11 range. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him bump up a little higher once we see him on the field. So Kev, I'll throw it to you. Where does he fit in your dynasty rankings? Now also we know he's landed with the Bears.
Yeah, very similar. QB11 for me is right between Joe Burrow and Trey Lance. Like we said, it's not the best landing spot from the draft, but situations change, so I'm not too worried. Allen Robinson, he gets the best QB of his career, but we know he's always been underrated as well, so that's awesome for Fields. And also the younger guys, Darnell Mooney Cole Kmet. They're both guys with a lot of potential to help Fields as well. He is my rookie QB2, is Fields. I've got him above Lance. It's very close. I think right now I'd take Fields because I think he's got more talent today, and I think he's less risky as well. I think with Lance, there's a bit more of a projection coming from the program he's come from, and also just that one season really of production. I think Lance has got higher ceiling, but I'd be more inclined to take Fields just because of more certainty that he's going to hit. I know you like Justin Fields as well, Matt. We're in a best ball startup. That's the best ball startup. You traded up to take him in the fourth round. He was a QB 12 actually in that league. But yeah, I'm comfortable with him as my QB winning startups. But I think with the way I attack my startup drafts and with prioritizing QB early, he ends up being my QB 2.
Yeah, so I've got Fields as my QB 12 at the minute, 2 spots behind Lance and 1 behind Aaron Rodgers. I'd be a little bit nervous to have him as my QB 1 at the minute. I can see there's a little limitations there, but he's a day one starter, so he's got the head start on Lance. And I'm just really chuffed for Allen Robinson finally getting someone to throw him the ball accurately. But yeah, so he's got the head start on Lance for me. But yeah, I think if he would have gone to Denver, then Fields would have been my QB2. But the landing spot in Chicago is decent, but just not quite as good. But I was chuffed that the Patriots didn't get him. So a quick question to you, Matt. In your Superflex rookie drafts, where are you looking to take him? Is it the 102 or 103 for you?
Yeah, we just mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I've got Lance over him, so it'd be around the 103 that I'd take him. But I wouldn't say there's a great deal between it. I think we can all agree on that both of these quarterbacks pretty similar when it comes to where we'd rank them. I think Trey Lance, who we just spoke about a little bit earlier, I think he's more high risk, high reward, as we said, with that upside that he has. So it could all depend onto the roster that I've got and the situation that I'm in. Obviously, if I need somebody that's a little bit more safer, I've got no problem going more towards Fields than Lance, and as I say, it just feels that a little bit more safer. But I think I like to live life on the edge, lads, and I like to go for that, shoot for that upside. So that's why I target Lance over Fields. But yeah, there's one thing for sure: I'm not letting Fields fall past me. If I'm at the 103, there's zero chance that I'm not taking him there. And that's no matter what my team needs are. I'm taking that quarterback at that 103. So we'll move on then, Kev, to the next thing you want to talk about.
Yeah, already I'm being greedy. I've decided to tackle a couple of players on this one. Try to tackle them. I've gone for the 49ers backfield. So that's Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell I'm going to talk about. Trey Sermon went in round 3, Elijah Mitchell round 6. And this is a crowded backfield already with guys like Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Wayne Gallman, Jermichael Hasty as well. So first off with Sermon, I think it was massive that the 49ers trade up to grab him on day 2. But I guess with Sermon, outside of the stretch of scenery, he's never really wowed me. He got outplayed at Oklahoma by Kennedy Brooks. He then transferred to Ohio State as a senior. And then his best season was beating up on youngsters. So we know he's a tough runner. We know he's not the fastest. He's not quick. He's never had a 20-catch season. But we have seen him shooting up boards to the 1-2 turn based on the combination of this landing spot and the draft capital. So this really reminds me of Keyshawn Vaughn last year, the fact that there's a guy that's not as talented, but he's rising up boards way too far for me. It's funny to see people taking him in round 1. Elijah Mitchell, one of my favourite draft sleepers. I would have preferred better draft capital. He was taken round 6, but I do think it's a great spot for him to compete. We know the 49ers do give opportunity to a bunch of different guys, so I've got no doubt he'll get a crack at a spot start at some point in the near future. He's a Jerick McKinnon clone, according to playerprofiler.com. So we saw him having success in San Fran, and also he's just left them this off season, so an ideal replacement for him. McKinnon had a top 40 running back season last year, so imagine if Elijah Mitchell can get you that going in the mid-4th of your rookie drafts, that'd be fantastic value for you. I think it is a competitive landing spot, like I said, but it does give you opportunities at various stages. So I want to get your thoughts on this in terms of which of these guys, if any, do you prefer the projected rookie draft ADP? And that was Sermon on the 1-2 turn and Mitchell in the mid-4th.
So Sermon's rised up my rankings. He's my RB5 now. He was the RB8 before the draft. So I like the landing spot a lot, but I'm still not touching him at the 1-2 turn. You've got people like Devonta Smith, Rashod, Bateman, and Waddle. You've got the two Moores. I'll take all of those over Sermon there. The two drafts that I've done so far, he's gone as the 2-7 and 2-8, which is more where I'll be comfortable taking him. It's a bit of a drop off in talent when you get to the mid-second, was the back of the second. So I'm quite happy to take him there. I also think that further down the road, I think his stock's going to pick up, and June or July time, he could even be a bit further up than he is now. Like I say, I've definitely grown on him, but I'm only happy to take him sort of mid to late second round for me.
Yeah. I think, in all honesty, I'm a little bit cautious about attacking either of these guys in this backfield. I mean, I know that this backfield, it's fantasy goldmine, and we can get an elite running back out of this backfield. We've seen it plenty of times when it comes to fantasy, but it's just what you mentioned, Kev. I think the amount of competition with both these guys, and then Wilson, Mostert, Gallman. It's just going to be really tough, I think, for him to get opportunities, at least early on. I think usually when you talk about a backfield like this, you tend to lean towards more the cheapest guy you can get and just take a shot on that guy. But in all honesty, I think when it comes to this one, I'm leaning more towards Sermon. I think he was my RB6 pre-draft. But I just think it's telling, the fact that you just mentioned it, Kev, that they traded up to get him. I think that could be a sign they obviously wanted to jump up and get the guy. I think that shows us something when it comes to fantasy. They're a believer in his talent. So that's probably why I'd edge towards having Sermon. But again, I'm not taking him at the 1-2 turn. I'd be happy grabbing him middle of the second. But yeah, I think that 1-2 turn, Ali's just mentioned it, that the players you've just named, I think there's no way you can pass up on guys like those wide receivers just to get a running back for the sake of getting a running back, really. I know it's what we all desire in fantasy. We all want an elite running back, but I'm not happy to take a chance on a guy that's just been selected in the third round that early over those wide receivers. So Kev, I know pre-draft you mentioned you had Mitchell as your RB8 and then Sermon as your RB11. Where does that sit now? Obviously now we know the draft capital that they both got. Yeah,
great question, Matt. Thank you for shaming my pre-draft rankings there, showing that I was very low on Sermon. Sermon's moved up. He's my running back 5, and Mitchell's dropped a little bit. He's my running back 9. The big rise with Sermon, it's due to the day 2 draft capital. I think there is a big cut-off generally. If you're a round 3 or a round 4 running back, it might only feel slight, but there is a big gap in that for me. The trade up to get him as well, that gives a little bit more security than your standard third round pick. But with Sermon, I still wouldn't take him until the late second. I think with Mitchell, he's going to have the dip as a 6th rounder. He's a long shot to be a massive impact, but he's the highest ranked running back from day 3 for me in my rankings. And I'll still likely be above consensus on Elijah Mitchell. I'd be probably willing to take him at the end of the 3rd, depending on my situation. So, yeah, Sermon's my running back 5, but I doubt I'll have any of him, to be honest. I think people will take him earlier.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. We say it. It seems like every offseason and after every draft we say it, but don't get too engrossed in these landing spots and get too overly excited by it. We've been burnt enough times. You think we'd learn by now, but seeing that ADP, I'm not sure. I'm seeing Sermon creep up. So yeah, we'll move on to the next guy then, Ali. Who do you want to talk about now?
So it's a predicament with Jamar Chase landing in Cincinnati. Which, yeah, for all my T. Higgins shares, I'm absolutely gutted. No, actually, I was proper pissed when they made the pick over Saul, much to the delight of Detroit. But once I started digging, actually, I was more okay with it. Just looking at the figures from last season with Joe Burrow under center, he was averaging over 40 passes a game, which, okay, they might not keep up that rate, but that was second in the NFL over a 16-game pace. AJ Green's now gone out of the building. He had 104 targets last year. And they don't have a tight end either, which is good. So Chase is going to have plenty of targets, as is all the other receivers, I think. Joe Mixon, he's never had a really big season in receptions. The most he's had is 55 targets for 43 receptions. So you've got Tyler Boyd there, and I still think that he's a good receiver. But it's a pass-heavy offense, and the fact is their defense still stinks. The first 2 picks were both offensive players, so they're going to be throwing it a lot again. So to me, I can see it playing out as is Chase being the number one. I think with the draft capital, with the fact that he's linked up with Burrow before, I think that stands for a lot. So he's going to be number one, I think. I think it's not going to take him long to get going. But him and Higgins, I see both as top 24 receivers. Where they finish in the top 24, it could be anywhere. But I can actually see Chase having a wide receiver 1 season in 2021. I haven't officially ranked him in my dynasty ranks, but I think he's going to go in my tier 2 with the likes of Diggs, Ridley, and Hopkins. So I'm just interested to see where you both have him ranked in your dynasty rankings.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit like you, Ali. I've got nothing set in stone, but from just looking at it where I've got it right now, I've slid him right up there as my wide receiver 9 in my dynasty rankings. I've been saying it during the build up to the draft. I do think he is one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in years. So I'm happy to back my confidence that I've had in him and I'm put it down in my rankings. And yeah, I think wide receiver 9, I'm comfortable with that. He's got huge upside, I think. And in all honesty, you mentioned it, Ali. I think that the situation it could be great for him. You've said the Bengals, the defense it's nothing special. So they're going to be chasing games, I think, a lot. See that chasing game? They're going to be chasing. They're going to be chasing games a lot of the time. As you say, it's going to fit perfectly into this offense. But I think the cherry on top of the cake for me is that chemistry. He's already got years and years of chemistry with Joe Burrow, and I think that's absolutely ideal. We worry about that early production from your rookie wide receivers, but he's got that connection with his quarterback. He's not got to build that chemistry over the off season. They've got that. They've had it for years. So I think that's why I'm like you, Ali. I think he can be a really solid fantasy producer right from the get-go in 2021. I think he's going to be one of the top wide receivers in the NFL for years, and I think he's going to definitely. I'd be shocked if he wasn't in that wide receiver 1 bracket, that top 12 bracket of wide receivers. By the end of the season, I think everybody's gonna realize just how great he is, really.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is top 10 for me, wide receiver 10 in my rankings. I think he's going to be an absolute beast with a massive ceiling. Reason I'm a little bit lower than you guys, I work on a 2-year window, a 2-year basis. I think a lot of people go a little bit longer term, wide scale in their projections, etc. I'd still take guys like Calvin Ridley and Michael Thomas over him, but I think if you're in a rebuild or if you're a middle of the road team as such, I think it could be as high as a top 5 wide receiver for you, especially if you know you're not competing in the next couple of years. Which, if you're not, it would jump guys that I mentioned and other guys like Nuke Hopkins and Stephon Diggs. I think Chase will be a star, but it might not be year 1. So, question for you, Elliot: How do you see Chase performing this season compared to his teammates Higgins and Boyd?
I think it's always tough because we just suspect that they're going to come in and have a Justin Jefferson type season and just blow it away. But it doesn't work like that. Especially they're going to have another COVID affected off season. So I can see him probably starting a bit slowly, but that chemistry that he's already had with Burrow is gonna be everything really. They already know where they want to play. They've got that connection, so I can see him finishing as a wide receiver 1. I think he's going to dominate down the stretch. And Higgins is still going to be good. There's still going to be a lot of volume for Higgins and Boyd. I don't think you can discount either of those two. Higgins I favour over Boyd. I think he's going to finish as sort of a wide receiver 2, and then Boyd probably a bit further down.
Yeah, I know all three of us, we love Higgins, so here's just hoping that both Higgins and Chase get to eat next year, and we can have both of them be awesome in fantasy. That's the ideal situation. Yes. So we'll move on to the next guy then, and it's Javonte Williams. Obviously, we know he's now landed with the Broncos at pick 35, I believe. Was it pick 35? Again, a little bit like we just spoke with Sam, and it's interesting to see that the Broncos actually traded up 5 spots to get their guy. Jumping RB needed teams as well, like Miami. So that's obviously a great pointer to the fact how much they believe in this guy and how much they wanted him on the team. He's got that size. He's 5'10", 220, so it's that prototypical size for a running back that can handle a heavy workload. Obviously had that breakout season in 2020 with North Carolina with 1,140 rushing yards on just 157 carries and then 19 touchdowns as well. So dominant on the ground. He's shown it. He had 50 broken tackles last year, which actually led the nation in 2020. So just a real tough runner. I think he's going to be great for fantasy, in all honesty. It was my RB3 pre-draft, and it's going to be hard for me to move him down given the draft capital that we know he's got, and obviously the situation he's landed in. But just touching on that situation, the only thing that could possibly be a bit of a hindrance early doors is Melvin Gordon. I mean, he's still there, and I think to me we've got to have that mindset a little bit like we had with J.K. Dobbins last year, where we know the talent, we know what he's got, but I think he's going to be in a bit of a timeshare with another running back, and I think we're going to have to wait for that future production to shine through rather than the instant production that we're all craving. So as I say, well, I'm not too worried long term. I just think the fact that Gordon was a solid RB last year for Denver with over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and he actually finishes the RB 14 in fantasy last year. I think we spoke about it a little bit, Kev, early in the off season. I think he was, if it wasn't for Williams signing it, it was in a great situation. But obviously now, with Williams there, it's just become a bit of a mess. But I think the other thing that could be interesting is the fact that they're both quite similar when it comes to the size and the skill set that they have. So I'm just interested to know, Kev, what your feelings are. If they do go into 2021 with both of these guys, how do you see it playing out next year?
Yeah, I think it will be a split backfield. I think Gordon's had a solid career overall. He will have a role. There's plenty of weapons as well on that offense outside of Gordon. You've got the wide receivers, the tight end as well. So I think it could be a slow rookie season for Javonte, but it will be a stronger second half, I anticipate. I was going to compare it to a Miles Sanders type rookie season, but I actually think your comparison to J.K. Dobbins is probably better. So I'm not going to talk about that. I think for Javonte, if there is an injury to Melvin Gordon, that's when we're going to really see him shine. But I do think it is risky for either Javonte or Melvin Gordon to be a running back 2 in 2021 if you're planning on contending. I think we'll really see Javonte take a big step next season when Melvin Gordon's 29 and a free agent. That's when we can get super crazy on Javonte Williams, who's easily the best rookie running back from North Carolina in this class.
Love it, Kev. The Broncos, they are loaded across the board. They're really just a quarterback away from really competing this year. So if they were managed to land Aaron Rodgers, then look out. But they're here to compete regardless. So they're going to give Gordon, Melvin Gordon's efficient. He's really underrated running back. He's had a really good career. He's still going to have a big role this year. he's definitely going to be the guy to start off the year. I think you see Williams come in to play down the stretch. So I don't think you can count on him for 2021. I think 2022 is where he really makes his mark. He remains my running back 3 post draft. He was pre-draft. I can't drop him down any further. And I think there's actually a big drop off to the next running back, who I shall not name.
Until later.
Love this.
So just a question back to you, Matt. So hypothetically, if Gordon's off the roster at the end of the 2021 season, what can you see Williams' ceiling being?
Yeah, well, I think he can definitely be a high-end RB2, and that's probably a bit of injustice to him. I think he could maybe push a little bit higher. But with Denver, they're quite middle of the road when it comes to rushing attempts. I think they're ranked 12th in 2020, so he's got a pretty good volume when it comes to running the ball. I think he's also got that potential to excel as a pass catcher as well. We've seen it in college that he's definitely able to catch the ball. He had 50 receptions for 539 yards and 4 touchdowns in his career with North Carolina. So again, that's great that we know he can definitely contribute in the passing game. I just think overall he's going to be a really exciting dynasty asset. I mean, he's only 20 years old as well. I think that's a thing that a lot of people forget about, and you know how much Kev and Ali, both of you know how much I preach about getting these young running backs. The younger the better for me. The younger the better for me when it comes to running backs. Just staying as far away as possible from that age cliff. It's the thing that we all dread when it comes to running backs in fantasy. So yeah, somebody like Williams at that young age, I think is ideal for a dynasty running back. And yeah, I think the future outlook, it looks exciting once he finally gets that clear path when Gordon hopefully moves on. Yeah. So before we kick off with the second half of the show, I'll just give a shout out to a sponsor, Silver FX. They're the leading supplier of bespoke teamwear, including podcasts, sports clubs, universities, and schools. You can choose from Silver FX's own bespoke range or their modified designs, or you can customize your own from scratch. We at the Fantasy Wildcard, we've got our very own merchandise store, bringing you our fantastic logo branded across several items, which include hoodies and hats, which I believe Kev's representing at the moment, jackets, t-shirts and shorts, plus many more. So just be sure to check out Silver FX on Twitter at silverfx_sports and their website, www.silverfx.co.uk. Thank you. So we'll crack on with the second half of the show, lads, and we're going to carry on recapping the NFL draft from a dynasty perspective. So who's the next guy you'd like to talk about, Kev?
Yeah, Matt, it's your best mate. It's Kadarius Toney. There were rumours he'd go in round 1, and these were correct when Giants took him at 20. Personally, I thought it was hilarious to see this unfold as an Eagles fan. First of all, the Eagles trading up from 12 to 10 to take Devontae Smith and snipe Gettleman, and then him panicking. It was like when you're in a draft and you get sniped yourself and then make a stupid decision. So I do actually think the initial trade down to 20 was a really good move by the Giants, but then they had to take the offensive lineman Christian Darrisaw there. I think taking Toney was an awful pick. I don't think they should have been going wide receiver that early. I think O-line was the play. And Toney was less than impressive at Florida. He had a ton of favourable matchups on the same field as Kyle Pitts, drawing coverage away from himself. And he only broke out as a senior versus youngsters. So production-wise, very poor in college, although he is very athletic and did flash the big play as a senior. I think he's entering an offense with a ton of competition. You've got elite running back Saquon Barkley, who's going to be taking plenty in the pass game. You've got the free agent signing Kenny Golladay, role players like
that's not catching on, Kev. No, we're not having that.
there's role players like Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Evan Engram, Kyle Rudolph. So I can't see him getting crazy amount of volume despite this draft capital. Round 1 draft capital. You'd expect him to get a shot, but I can't see it immediately until there's a few of these guys leaving. I know Engram's out of contract soon, and I believe maybe Sterling Shepard is as well at some point in the near future. So we did see a lot of running backs and wide receivers slide in the draft. So this will genuinely mean that Toney's stock is going to rise. So now that he has got the round 1 draft capital, I want to know how far this pushes him up your Superflex rookie rankings overall.
Sorry, Matt, it doesn't really push him up far at all, to be honest. He's a wide receiver 8 for me, so it's not bad. But I think it's only the draft capital that's keeping him there. They're going to want to get him involved. They seem quite excited about him, but I agree. It was a massive reach for him at pick 20. It was quite comical. But yeah, like you said, they've got so many weapons already that it's unreal that they need to take another one. I mean, if Daniel Jones can't work in this offense now, then he may as well just give up in the NFL. The thing with Toney for me is just that it's really hard to work out where I want to take him in my rookie drafts. But then I had an opportunity last night. He fell to me at the 2-12 or at the back end of the second round. So I did take him. I still wasn't that happy about it, but I took him, and we'll see how it plays out. But I wouldn't be comfortable taking him any higher than a mid-second, really, for me.
Yeah, a bit like you just mentioned, Ali. To be honest, I've not moved him up much, and if he has gone up, it's not really me moving him up. It's other guys falling down below him. So, yeah, I'll be honest. I don't hate him as a player. I don't mind him as a player, but I was absolutely fuming when we took him at pick 20. I'm glad that nobody can see our group chat, lads, because I was fuming. I can't believe that we got him there. I mean, we probably could have got him in the second round, in all honesty, and even if we didn't, I wouldn't be upset about it. So yeah, that's my feelings on us in terms of actually getting him in the draft and getting him in round 1. I think for him to be good in fantasy, he's going to need that volume. And you just mentioned with the guys that we've got, I think that's going to be the issue. I'd need to see us move on from Shepard. Obviously, we know he plays in the slot. Toney is likely going to play in the slot and get those manufactured touches like he did in college. So, yeah, that's why I've not really got much confidence behind him, in all honesty, when it comes to fantasy. And like you said, late seconds probably where I'd take him. That's where I've seen him go in the few rookie drafts that I'm in at the moment. So, Kev, I just want to know, does that first round capital, does that give you any more confidence in him being solid in terms of fantasy, or is it the draft capital? Is that not really something that you pay too much attention to?
I think it's got to give you some confidence. The fact that round 1 draft capital means he's going to get at least a chance to show something pretty early on. I was on the 5-Yard Rush podcast last week with Rich Coolin, our good friend, and he asked me a question about the guy most reliant on draft capital to succeed, and I picked Toney. So I think if he would have fallen out of round 1 into day 2, it'd have slid even further for me in my rankings. But with the round 1 draft capital, he's going to be in my top 10. I'm not big on him as a talent, but I just think first round draft capital's got to have some weight. Yeah. I think if he's available in your round 2 of your rookie picks, he's worth a gamble. I mean, you're only going to hit on 20% of round 2 rookie picks anyway. So if you're going to gamble on one, you might as well go for one that's actually been taken in the top 20 in the actual NFL draft.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with that, to be honest, Kev. I think if you can get that kind of guy at the end of the second, I mean, I'd much rather taking a shot on somebody like that than a guy that we picked in the 6th, 5th round in the NFL draft, because he's, as you say, he's going to get that opportunity. So we'll move on again then. Ali, I've just seen the show sheet. You're going to be a little bit like Kevin and get greedy on us, but what do you want to talk about, Ali?
I just want us to have a moment of silence, please, for Bateman and Wallace on the arrival to the wide receiver graveyard. Now, actually, looking into it, at first I thought, this is awful. I was really high on Bateman coming into the draft. I was hoping he was going to land in a Green Bay or somewhere where he was going to get lots of volume, a really good pass-heavy offense, but unfortunately not. He's gone to the Ravens. He's destroyed my dreams. But looking into it, it's not as bad as I first thought, really. If you wanted a destination where Bateman can come in and be the number one guy, then this is probably it. He was my wide receiver 3 pre-draft. I've dropped him down one spot behind Waddle now, so he's my wide receiver 4. But he's one of the most polished receivers of the rookies coming in. He came into his own in his sophomore season. He had over 1,200 yards in 13 games. And it's clear that Baltimore have been trying to get an alpha wide receiver all off season. They landed on Sammy Watkins, but he's not an alpha. I don't know what he even is at this point in his career.
A bust.
Yeah, exactly. So despite the clear heavy run offense and they have the fewest pass attempts in the NFL, I expect him to contribute from day one. He's NFL ready. So I don't like it too bad for Bateman. I was expecting to drop him down even more than I did, but I've landed on the wide receiver 4. But Tyler Wallace was one of my biggest disappointments as well. He was one of my favourite sleepers coming in, and I've had to now drop him down even more, 4 more spots. I just can't see enough pass volume, full stop. If you think they now got Bateman, they've got Hollywood Brown, Andrews, who's always going to be the first target, probably, Watkins, and now Wallace, and then that doesn't even include J.K. Dobbins or the running backs. So it's pretty impossible for him to get decent volume now. I recently did actually pick him at the 405, so I thought at that price he's probably worth a bit of a stash. I'm happy to keep him around because I did like his talent coming in, and his ADP before the draft was 18 overall. He's a wide receiver 8. That just shows how far that he fell in the draft. So just a quick question for you two. Are you a fan of the landing spot for Bateman? And now is Wallace off your radars completely?
Yeah, I have to say I'm definitely not a fan of the landing spot, in all honesty. I think we knew, didn't we? I think the Ravens, when they got that second pick, especially in the first round, I think we knew there was going to be one wide receiver that was going to end up on the Ravens, and we were all hoping it wasn't the guy that we was high on, and sadly it ended up being Bateman. Yeah, you could argue it's great in terms of the fact that he's probably now the top wide receiver on that offense. But you mentioned it a little bit before, Ali. It's that pass volume, I think, which is just the absolute killer for me. Baltimore, they ranked rock bottom in terms of pass attempts per game in 2020. And if you just want to put that into context, that was around 38% less attempts per game than Pittsburgh, who ranked first. So just so much less pass volume to go around. And I think that's just why I'm struggling to get behind Bateman as a top wide receiver option when it comes to my rookie drafts. And then for Wallace, well, for both of them, I'm happy to acquire both of them. It's not that I don't want them at all on my team. I just can't get behind them for being key pieces in my fantasy rosters. If people are going to value them based on the talent, then I'm unlikely to get any shares because I'm not willing to buy the talent when I'm factoring in the landing spot as well. I'd take Bateman. I've probably got him early second, around the 203 is probably where I'd be comfortable taking him. And then Wallace, late third. So you just mentioned it, Ali, where you got him. I think that's great value, to be honest, as somebody to stash, because, again, I was like you. I was quite high on the talent, but it's just that landing spot. I know I've just said it a little in the show not to overreact too much, but when it comes to a wide receiver on this offense, I think you've got to bump him down.
Yeah, I think cue the Garner funeral gift for this one. It's a terrible landing spot, and it's not about Lamar Jackson. I think he's great. I think it's all about the volume. It's going to cap his upside massively on about Bateman here, that I don't think he can ever be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy in that scheme. But like you both said, we're not going to be out on Bateman as a talent or even Wallace as a talent. I think it all depends on the value where you can get them. Bateman in round 2, Wallace at that 3-4 turn. I'm all for that. I just wonder, with the added weapons, do you think that the Ravens will actually tweak their philosophy and put the ball in Lamar's hands a bit more and pass to take that next step as an offense? Or do you think they stick to what's been tried and tested and worked well for them in the past?
I think they've just been so successful with that run first approach that they're gonna stick with it. I can't see them changing now. They've made, they're always there or thereabouts at the end of the season, winning plenty of games with this method. So it's tried and tested, so they're gonna carry it on. But I do think it gives Lamar a nice bump up. And I think they also probably feel more comfortable now letting Lamar drop back if they have to. You saw last season and the season before when they found themselves behind, they didn't really know what to do. Lamar couldn't get them out of a hole, whereas now he's got more weapons if they do fall behind in games. I think it's not similar, but it was all doom and gloom with AJ Brown when he landed on the Tennessee Titans. We said there's just not enough, passing attempts to go round. And now look at him. Some people are touting him as wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. So for me, I don't think they're going to change it. I just think it just gives them the option if they need to, if they fall behind in matches. But no, they're still going to be probably exactly the same as they were last season, with low pass volume.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ali. As I say, I think if anything, it just now gives Lamar that extra option when things do start to turn sour. He's now at least got a wide receiver that's capable of getting him out of any problem that he's in, and he can. Yeah, I think it's just a boost for the offense, but I don't see him changing the whole scheme and the whole system. So we'll move on to the next guy then. I'm sorry to do it to you, Ali. I know this is one of your favorite guys, but it's Kenny Gainwell. For me, I think this was arguably the biggest shock in the draft, especially for us football nuts. Anyway, I think this was the big talking point. Gainwell, he was the consensus RB4 before the draft, but he fell all the way down to the 5th round, and he's landed with your Eagles, Kev.
Indeed.
He now joins Miles Sanders in that backfield, so his path to substantial touches it seems to be limited now. He was arguably one of the best pass catching running backs in this rookie class. He had over 600 receiving yards in 2019, and I think as well it's been well documented that Miles Sanders, he did have his struggles with drops last year. He had 8, and that ranked 2nd amongst running backs in the NFL. So could see potential for him having a role. He could maybe even be the new Darren Sproles, Kev, for the Eagles as that weapon out of the backfield. But I just can't see him eating too much into Sanders' rushing attempts. I think Sanders is the better rusher out of the two, and I think he's definitely going to get his share when it comes to running the ball. The lack of draft capital, it's going to kill any value for Gainwell. And I'd be shocked if anybody's still keeping him as high as their RB4 in their rankings. I've now moved him down to my RB6. And that's just because I think that it was just bad for a lot of the running backs. We've mentioned it earlier, but I think a lot of running backs they slid down in the draft. So Kev, Gainwell's ADP in Superflex rookie drafts I think it was around an early 2nd rounder before the draft. Where would you now be comfortable taking him in your rookie drafts?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love Gainwell. I'm an Eagles fan. If this was a round 2 or 3 pick, I'd be getting a jersey. Yeah. But yeah, it's really, really concerning that he slid to round 5, especially when there's plenty of opportunities to land on a team in round 3 or 4, like the Falcons or the Jets. I do wonder if it's something to do with the clear weight gain that harmed his stock. Got me comparing it to last year with Eno Benjamin, where putting all that weight around the off season and then slid to late day three with a similar storyline. I do think Gainwell will get a role. He's got Boston Scott as a competition. Boston Scott sounds like an amateur wrestler. I mean, I do worry about the combination of Gainwell as a pass catch with a scrambling QB like Jalen Hurts. But I am comfortable taking him as a mid to late 3rd rounder. He did drop from RB4 to RB7, but I can see him being used. Miles Sanders has picked up a few injuries over the last few years, so you never know. He might actually do better than his draft capital suggests. So we just have to see. Plus, it's a completely new offensive scheme and system. There's no ties to Miles Sanders from this coaching staff as such. So Yeah, I think running back 7, mid to late round 3. I'm happy to take a dart as a bit of a homer.
Yeah, this was a this was a bad one for me. I must admit, on day 2 and 3, I was following it on my phone, and I thought, I've got to keep scrolling through. They must have missed him. He must be there round 2 or 3. I must have missed it, but I couldn't believe it when he went round 5. It was unbelievable. So yeah, if he had the capital, I was all on board for an early 2nd round pick. I thought his talent was there. I just can't believe a team didn't fall in love with him as much as I did. I think everyone knew my love for Kenneth pre-draft. I did get my first share of him last night, but it still didn't feel that great, and it was at the 302. I couldn't bear to see him fall any further. But
sympathy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do actually see a world where he can be relevant. You see, Sanders missed 4 games last season through injury, and then we saw in them games that Boston Scott, the wrestler, got a decent workload. So there's a world where he can be relevant. But for me, he's gone down to my RB6. Although ultimately he could end up moving below Hubbard. So yeah, not a good one for me. So just a question for you, Matt. Whereabouts are you comfortable taking him in your Superflex rookie drafts, or are you now avoiding him altogether and taking your shot elsewhere?
Yeah, well, I've got my first share as well, Ali. I got him at the 304 in my Superflex rookie draft. I think that's around the area that I was comfortable grabbing him, around that early 3rd. I do tend to gravitate more towards those running backs around that area. That's where we start getting that drop off at wide receiver. So yeah, I'm happy to take that shot on a running back. And as I say, I do think he can be fantasy relevant, even more so in PPR with that pass catching ability. But he's likely only going to be a flex option at best, I'd say. I think maybe if we could get that Nyheim Hines, Tariq Cohen kind of role, where is that pass catching option at running back, then I think that's the best case scenario for us. I do rate the talent. I know, Ali, you've been banging on about his talent, and I do agree. I think he is a talented running back. It's just this situation for me that's killed it, and as we said, the draft capital. But if an opportunity does open up for him to get a bit more substantial workload, yeah, I think he can be solid in fantasy in those given weeks. So I think that's the best case scenarios, is either is used as a pass catching weapon out of the backfield, or we're not going to wish injuries, but if an opportunity opens up, I think that's where we're gonna get at least some return from him in fantasy. So we'll move on then, Kev, to your next subject.
Yeah, I'm being greedy again. 2 players. I'm going for the Alabama wide receiver core, Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. Dolphins took Waddle pick 6, Eagles traded up and took Devontae Smith pick 10. And both of these guys link up with their former college QBs, Waddle with Tua and Devontae with Hurts. But both wide receivers are entering very different situations. You've got Waddle, he's gone to a well-run franchise, second-year coach, improving offense. He's got solid veteran wide receivers in Fuller and Devontae Parker there, and he's likely to take the leap to the wide receiver 1 on that team in year 2. Plus, he's tied to a guy that I believe is a franchise QB in Tua. And then the flip side is with Devontae, who's joining an unproven offense. There's nothing of note outside of 2020 rookie wide receiver Jalen Reagor. And there's also the tight end duo of Ertz and Goddard. I think Smith could actually be the wide receiver 1 on this team from his rookie year, but he is tied to a guy with a little job security beyond 2021 in Jalen Hurts. The draft rumors were correct on Waddle going before coming Heisman winner Devontae Smith. Personally, I've got it the way around. I've got Smith over Waddle, both pre-draft and now post-draft. And both of these guys do have questions in the profiles. You've got Devontae with his late breakout and his overblown BMI. And then you've got Waddle with the overall concerns about production and dominance. So I just want to get your guys' take on which of these former Alabama wide receivers received the best dynasty landing spot and what effect it's had in your Superflex ranks.
So over the two, I'd say Waddle's got the best landing spot. He's got the better draft capital. There's rumours that the Dolphins, they traded back up to 6 with the thought of having Waddle in mind, and they wanted Waddle ahead of Chase, which can't quite believe, but
wild.
Yeah. So I've got Waddle as the best landing spot, but I still have Smith ranked a place above. Waddle was my wide receiver 4 pre-draft. He's now moved ahead of Bateman, who has passed away. I've got Waddle, so he links up with Tua, and the fact that the Eagles already have decent weapons, whereas the Eagles just don't. Jalen Reagor just didn't work for whatever reason last year. Whether he'll turn into that alpha guy, I've got my doubts. But Smith is now the default number 1, and I love his talent. He's obviously played with Hurts before, and the two had chemistry. So long term, I don't think Hurts is ultimately going to be the Eagles quarterback. So I think Smith has the highest upside, but just for now, Waddle's got to be the best landing spot. But I am actually still drafting Smith ahead of Waddle. I'm drafting Smith about the back of the first, and Waddle sort of early second round.
Yeah, I had Smith just above Waddle in my pre-draft rookie rankings. I had Smith at 2 and Waddle at 3, but I'm going to be honest, I've switched them round. I bumped Waddle above Smith now. I do really like the landing spot for Waddle in Miami. I think he instantly steps into that slot role for Miami. He's linking up with his former Alabama quarterback Tua. I just think this offense is going to look completely different in 2021, and I think that can only be a good thing for Waddle and his fantasy production. I mentioned it on Twitter before. I was never really going to be thrilled about whichever wide receiver landed on the Eagles, and that was mainly because of Jalen Hurts being the quarterback. He's not. We've seen it when he was the starter last year. We've seen he's not really the ideal quarterback that you want throwing to your wide receivers. Showed that inconsistency, and Kev mentioned I think he's not got that job security. So for me, I think that's just why I've got to bump Smith down slightly in my rankings and move Waddle above him. I think I'd rather take Waddle right now. And I know I've seen Smith; he has been going earlier than Waddle in my rookie drafts. But yeah, Waddle, I'm happy to take him at the end of the first if I'm being honest. Kev, where are you happy taking both in your Superflex rookie drafts?
Yeah, cheeky flip-flop of the Alabama boys there, Matt. Although I do understand with why you've done it. Obviously, it's Jalen Hurts versus Tua, and I'm not going to argue with anyone giving some Tua love. So I'm still keeping Javonte as my wide receiver too. I think everyone knows that I'm not a Jalen Hurts fan. I don't think he's a franchise QB. I'm backing talent over situation. I think situations change, talent remains. It is very close between Smith and Waddle. Waddle is in a better environment, but he's going to be sticking around my wide receiver 5. He could be my wide receiver 4, though, to be honest, after all the slander we've given Bateman on this show today. I'll have to have a look at that. Maybe can bump up Waddle a little bit to wide receiver 4. Both guys have got question marks, but just got to stick with the pre-draft grades or the film and the metrics. And in terms of where I'd take them both, right at the end of round 1 for Javonte and round about that 202, 203 for Waddle.
Yep. Can't hate it, to be honest, Kev. Can't hate it. So we'll move on then, Ali, to the next one. I mean, you two, you both been greedy little boys, aren't you, today?
Oh yeah, if Kev could have 2, then I want 2. I'm taking the Moors, Rondale and Elijah. So starting with Rondale, he was drafted by the Cardinals in the mid-second round. In terms of the draft capital and landing spot, I don't mind it. It's probably about where I thought he would go. We know that Nuke Hopkins is going to be the dominant target on that offense. That's not going to change. Obviously, Rondale plays in a different position. He 71% of Rondale's yards was after the catch. He's actually electric when he gets the ball in his hands. So I can see Kyler Murray using that, him being used in slant sweeps, short passes. So yeah, I think he would have possibly gone round 1 had he not had all the injuries throughout his college career. He's only started 20 games, which is a bit concerning. But then he dazzled on his pro day with a 4.29 40-yard dash and his impressive vertical. So he's my wide receiver 6, and that's not changed from before the draft. The 2 rookie drafts that I've had, he's gone at the 202 and 204, which probably is a little bit early, but I would, if I had to take him there, I wouldn't be too upset. So moving on to Elijah, drafted the 34th overall, so top of the second round by the Jets. One of our friends of the show, Rich Cooling, is a massive Elijah Moore fan. So I think he's still trying to calm himself down over the selection. In terms of the 2 rookie drafts that I've had, he's gone slightly later at 208 and 209, which is massive value for me because I've got Elijah ranked 1 spot ahead of Rondale at wide receiver 5. So yeah, his 2020 season was electric at Ole Miss, 1,193 yards in just 8 games, and he's also got that rushing. He was used as a rusher as well, so he's got massive versatility, which is obviously a bonus for fantasy. I think he's an upgrade to Jamison Crowder in the slot, who's now in the last year of his contract. And I think that his cap hits something like 11 million, which is ridiculous. So my little hot take that I think that if Crowder was moved on, then I think that Elijah's the number 1 in this offense. I think he can be good and productive from day 1. So yeah, he's moved up to my wide receiver 5. So just a quick question for you two: which of the Moores do you like the best, and which do you have ranked the highest now?
Yeah, well, I might be on my own on this one, but I've got Rondale ranked above Elijah Moore. I had him as my wide receiver 5 pre-draft, Rondale, and I had Elijah Moore. I think he was wide receiver 8 at one point. I think I did bump him up a little bit during the off season, but yeah, I had him there before, and I think I'm going to stick with it even after the NFL draft. I mean, when we're talking about a team to land on, I think Rondale, I think it's a brilliant landing spot. In all honesty, it's with the Cardinals, that air raid offense. I believe that Cliff Kingsbury is going to want to get the ball in his hands as much as possible. We've seen how great he was in college and how explosive he can be. I think he's an ideal fit for this offense, and it's probably why I was so high on Christian Kirk. I know, Kev, you absolutely loved it when Rondale Moore got selected. You couldn't wait to slam me about my Christian Kirk tape, but I think that could possibly be why I'm high now on Rondale Moore. I just think with this offense, if he does manage to, I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but if Kirk gets pushed now outside and Morgan's in the slot, that's where I wanted Kirk. So if Moore's there, I think, yeah, I've got a bit. I'm really excited about it. And then talking about Elijah Moore, I'm also a big fan of his. I think he's again landing in a good spot. But if we're going to compare the 2 offenses, I think I know which one I'd rather have my wide receiver on, and that's the Cardinals. So yeah, that's why I've got him above. I've got Rondale above Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I think first of all, I just want to say that Rich Cooling's had 2 mentions on this show, so we'll be expecting a bit of commission on that, a bit of a payment from him. So apologies on that, Rich. But yeah, back to the Moores. I mean, Rondale going 6 picks before Elijah Moore, I think that's pretty crazy for me. I'm still slightly above on Elijah than Rondale. This was pre-draft and also post-draft. I think both guys will be pretty decent slot players in the NFL. I think it's a high volume role, which is solid for fantasy. But I mean, a clearer path to targets is coming for Elijah Moore for me. I think if you're comparing Mims and Corey Davis against Nuke Hopkins and AJ Green, I know we're all low on AJ Green, but he did have 100 targets last season, so he might get close to that again. Who knows? You made a great point, Ali. I think when you said that it will be the wide receiver 1 if they lose Crowder, I think that is spicy. I can see him leading the Jets in targets as a rookie, though. That is within his range of outcomes. I don't think the same can be said for Rondale Moore. He's not going to be out targeting Hopkins, is he? So I'll just swing the question towards one of our favourite guys, Denzel Mims. I know we're all big fans, but would you be trading Mims straight up for Elijah Moore, or are you sticking with Denzel Mims, Ali?
Oh, what a question! It's like choosing between my brother and my sister. It's like it's impossible. But if I have to answer it, I probably would. I'll probably give me Elijah Moore. I think I do see a little bit more upside with Moore, although it would sadden me to have to wave goodbye to Mims because I do love him. I can see a path to targets for Elijah Moore, and yeah, I think there's something to say about two highly drafted rookies coming in together on the Jets. I think they're going to hit it off. I think Wilson's going to love Elijah Moore as a target, and yeah, I just see his upside being so high that I probably would, but I'd have to really think about it.
Yeah, very fair. And I know it's tough because I'm also, well, Kev as well. We're all high on Mims, so again, it's going to be really interesting to see how these wide receivers play out against.
What would your answer be to that question, guys?
Well, you didn't. Kev didn't ask me, so I'm not answering it. It's too hard. It's too hard.
I think I'd stick with Mims just because he looked so good last year in my pre-draft modelling. He didn't really get a fair crack, so yeah, I'll just stick with Mims on that basis. I think if you're comparing them in their respective classes, I preferred Mims in a vacuum.
Yeah, I definitely have Mims higher last year in that class, but it's tough, isn't it, when you're comparing two guys from two different classes. So, yeah, in an ideal world, Ali, I'll have them both, please, if that's all right.
Yeah, fine.
So we'll move on to the last guy. Is it going to be a surprise what I'm going to talk about? Probably not, because you two have decided to take two players with every turn, it seems. So you've left me with no choice, really. And let's talk about Michael Carter. You've only got yourself to blame, boys, I'm afraid. Definitely save the best till last for me with Michael Carter, my absolute pre-draft crush. The first 2 days, I'll be honest, it was tough. I was sweating. I was worrying. I was thinking a bit like you, Ali, with Gainwell. I was thinking, have I missed it? Have I missed Carter being selected? But thankfully, I preached on Twitter. I asked the Twitter gods to give me Carter early in the fourth round, and they obliged. And we got Carter landing to the Jets early in the fourth round. I think it's a great situation to be in. He's going to competing for touches against Michael P. Ryan, Tevin Coleman, and Ty Johnson. In all honesty, I'm backing Carter to emerge as the main guy in that backfield before even the season starts. I think he's got that talent. I think he's definitely going to be, even if it is a committee, I think he's going to be the guy that gets the most touches. I get the concerns. Obviously, I hear it all the time about his size and his ability to carry that heavy workload. But even if he's not a workhorse, I still think he's going to be perfectly fine when it comes to fantasy. I just think he's got that perfect fit when it comes to this offense. He's shifty, his agility, and his short area burst. I think it's all perfect for this kind of offense with the Jets under head coach Robert Saleh and new offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, who have obviously they both worked under Kyle Shanahan at San Francisco. So if we're going to get that kind of run game that they had at the 49ers with Shanahan, we all know how much we love that backfield for fantasy. So why can't we get excited about Carter now landing in a potential new fantasy goldmine on this backfield? I had him as my RB4, as you both know, before the draft. I'll be honest, he's neck and neck with Williams for me. I know there's not going to be a lot of people, I don't think, that are going to be as high as that. But honestly, no matter what's happened in the draft, it's definitely not my confidence when it comes to Michael Carter. I've seen him go early second in honesty in Superflex drafts, and I think that's about right. I'll be honest, I'll grab him late first. I know you think I'm going crazy. You think I'm going crazy, and it's not even about the landing spot, boys. It's about the talent. I'm backing. This is not just landing spot. This is talent for me and landing spot. So yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get late first in my rookie drafts. Kev, where does he fit in your RB rankings now? I want to hear you say. I want to see the words come out of your mouth and tell me where you've got him in your rookie rankings.
Yeah, it absolutely pains me to say this.
Go on.
He's rookie running back 4, I think.
Ah.
God, it's so hard to talk well about him.
I'm absolutely loving this.
I mean, I would like him more if you didn't like him as much as you do. I do tend to fade players that I think are overhyped, but it's a great landing spot for opportunity. I mean, there was an initial worry about the 4th round draft capital for him for the longer term as well. I think you've got to worry about the draft capital, but the Jets didn't have a 3rd round pick, so they might have had a 3rd round grade on this on Carter. So we'll have to see about that one. He did rise from running back 6 to running back 4 for me, but this is also partly due to Kenny Gainwell's slide and Hubbard landing in a pure handcuff role. I know you've likened him to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You got a lot of stick from Chiefs Kingdom. With the draft capital now input into my model, I see him more as a Devin Singletary, which is a running back 3 in Dynasty. He's someone that's okay. He's non-offensive, but there's always that worry that there's going to be competition with him being a day 3 guy. All I can say is please take him in round 1 of drafts that you're doing with me. I think he's more of a mid-second. So please, if you do it, that'll make my year, honestly.
I really want to say.
Come on, Ali. You can go next. Where have you got him?
I want to say it as quietly as possible, but I think he's my RB4 as well. But again, I actually really like him. I just, for some reason, because of your love of him, I try and fade him as much as I can. But in terms of the landing spot, he's hit the jackpot. Obviously, the draft capital, the 4th round, was disappointing, but the fact he's landed on the Jets is from day one is the most talented running back that they've got. So I can see him getting immediate opportunities in a committee. Long term, I'm just a bit concerned with putting him too high with the Jets having 2 first-round picks next year and 2 second-round picks. They could easily snag a running back high to come in and be the guy. But yeah, he's my RB4. So a quick question back to you, Matt. And I think you probably answered it already, but I've been toying with the fact that I can't tell who to put as my running back 4. It's him or it's Trey Sermon. Sorry, Kev. So I just want you to sell me on why I should put Carter ahead of Trey Sermon as my RB4.
I've been looking forward to this one, Ali. Where do you want me to start? I mean, we'll go with college production first. Carter had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Sermon has never even broke 1,000 yards in college in a season. Carter is obviously being utilised a lot more in the passing game, whereas Sermon is not had that opportunity that Carter's had. And then obviously landing spot, we've just spoke about it. Yeah, Sermon is on that backfield that, as we've said, it can be a fantasy goldmine. But with the competition he's got, it's going to be a lot tougher for him to break out earlier than what Carter's got. The level of competition Carter's got to be out with Johnson, Pirine, and Coleman. It doesn't even compare for me, I don't think, when it comes to the two. As I say, I just think it's a perfect fit for Carter. You boys, you both know that I back Carter with his talent, and between the two, it's not close for me. I think talent-wise, Carter's beating Sermon in that area as well. The only knock you can put on, and I've just mentioned, it's the size difference. Sermon, he has got that more prototypical size, being 6 foot, 215 pounds. So yeah, he can potentially carry that heavier workload. But I don't think Carter needs it. He doesn't need to be a workhorse, I don't think, to be fantasy relevant. Players like Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, they don't need that heavy workload. They do it with how explosive they are, and that's what I'm backing Carter to be. He's explosive. I don't need to say any more, lads, because I've said it all off season. Everything I need to say has been said already, and now I've got that landing spot. I'm going to be more intolerable, to be honest. You're probably going to have to boot me off the podcast.
I basically just gave you 2 or 3 minutes of talking. Yeah. Michael Carter.
It was my favourite question when I saw it on the show sheet, Ali. It was my favourite question. a lovely way to end the show, I think.
Rookie mistake. Must improve.
I'm just good that I'm into 2 co-owned leagues for you, Matt. And I know we're going to be drafting Michael Carter early, so it's terrible.
Yep, and you've got no say in that one, Kev. It's happening. So that brings us to the end of the show, where we've recapped last week's NFL draft and the key dynasty takeaways. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad that we've finally got the draft out of the way now, and we can start diving into these landing spots and start looking forward to next season. So have you two got any final thoughts on the show? Kev, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's great to see the landing spots. It's the final part of the equation in the rookie models. It's now on to updating rookie rankings and seeing where everybody fits into the veterans as well. Our consensus actually is dropping later this week, so our rookie consensus, it'll give you a blend. So if there's one of us that's too high on someone, Carter, then it'll be balanced for the audience to get a full picture as such. So we're looking forward to that, and also we've got a fantastic show next week as well, which I'll tee up for you to smash out the park in a few moments, Matt.
Yeah, just for me, I'm just glad that we finally got the draft over and done with. Absolutely loved it. But we can stop talking about it and stop focusing on the landing spots now. So for me and all us Dynasty players, the hard work really begins now. And yeah, just tune in later in the week to see our rankings, which will be interesting, and keep donating for our streamathon. I'm personally making my donation this week, so yeah.
Yep. So obviously you just mentioned it, Ali. Just if you're listening, be sure to check it out on his Twitter page. It's his pinned tweet. You can find the link to donate, and obviously we'd be super grateful if you did. So thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Wildcard. On there we've got his Linktree site where you can find all his podcasts and his shows on YouTube. So please do check it out and be sure to subscribe. Join us next week on Tuesday the 11th of May, where we're going to be doing arguably what's going to be probably my favourite show. We're going to be doing a 2-round Dynasty rookie mock draft. I know we had a lot of fun when we had Dave Wright on before the draft doing the pre-draft one, so can't wait to do the post-draft one. So yeah, be sure to tune in next week. Thanks once again for listening, and we'll see you all soon.
See you later.
See ya.